Welcome back to Sikho German, Lektion 16. And we're tackling one of the most challenging yet essential topics in German, unregelmäßige Verben, irregular verbs. In the last lesson, you learned regular verbs that follow a completely predictable pattern. But today we're learning verbs that break the rules, verbs where the stem changes in unexpected ways. Don't worry though. There are patterns to these changes, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to master them. Today, we're learning about unregelmäßige Verben im Präsens, irregular verbs in the present tense. Let's make this super simple. We'll cover three main things: what irregular verbs are, why do they change, and how to use them correctly. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand the patterns behind irregular verbs and be able to conjugate the most common ones with confidence. Irregular verbs are verbs that do not follow the typical pattern of regular verbs. Here's what makes them different. Their endings are normal. They use the same endings as regular verbs, e, st, t, en. But the stem of the verb changes, mostly in the do and zs forms. This means the vowel inside the verb changes. The verb stem gets a vowel shift for the second and third person singular. This is why memorizing these stem changes is important. The endings are predictable, but the stem vowel changes. That's what makes them irregular. So why do irregular verbs change their vowel? Great question. Irregular verbs change their vowel to make pronunciation clearer. The vowel shift makes certain sounds easier to distinguish. Speech smoother when speaking quickly. The vowel changes create a natural flow. Communication is more natural. These changes evolved over centuries of spoken German. Think of it as German's way of making the language flow more naturally. These vowel changes have historical roots in the evolution of German. The good news? There are clear patterns you can learn. Before diving into it, hit the subscribe button for upcoming lectures. Now, let's learn the three main vowel change patterns for irregular verbs. Pay close attention. Once you recognize these patterns, irregular verbs become much easier. Pattern 1. When the verb stem contains the vowel e. There are two types of e changes. Let's start with type A. One consonant between two e's, first e changes to ie. This pattern is used in seeing, reading type verbs, verbs related to perception. Look at sehen, to see. Sehen has structure S-E-H-E-N, two e vowels with one consonant h in the tween. For du and zs, first e becomes ie. Du siehst, you see. Zs sieht, he, she, it sees. Notice ich sehe, no change, but du siehst, sieht, vowel change to ie. Another example, lesen, to read. Structure L-E-S-E-N, two e vowels with one consonant s in between. Du liest, you read. Zs liest, he, she, it reads. The first e becomes ie, making it sound like liest in English. This vowel change is very distinctive and easy to hear.
Now type B. Two consonants between two e's. First e changes to I, not ie. Look at sprechen, to speak. Structure S-P-R-E-C-H-E-N. Two e vowels with two consonants ch in between. For du and zs, first e becomes I. Du sprichst, you speak. Zs spricht, he, she, it speaks. Notice the difference from type A. With two consonants between the vowels, first e becomes I, not ie. Another type B example, helfen, to help. Structure H-E-L-F-E-N. Two e vowels with two consonants lf in between. Du hilfst, you help. Zs hilft, he, she, it helps. Again, first e becomes I because there are two consonants between the vowels. One more example, nehmen, to take. Structure N-E-H-M-E-N. Two e vowels with two consonants hm in between. Du nimmst, you take. Zs nimmt, he, she, it takes. Notice, the first e becomes I, nehmen becomes nimmst and nimmt. Pattern 1 summary. Type A, one consonant between e's, first e becomes ie. Sehen, sieht, lesen, liest. Type B, two consonants between E's, first E becomes I. Sprechen, spricht, helfen, hilft, nehmen, nimmt. Pattern 2. When the verb stem contains the vowel A. The vowel A often changes to A umlaut in strong verbs for do and s forms. Look at fahren, to drive or travel. Du fährst, you drive. s fährt, he, she, it drives. The A becomes A umlaut, creating a sharper, higher sound, much easier to pronounce when speaking quickly. Another example, laufen, to run or walk. Du läufst, you run. S läuft, he, she, it runs. Again, A becomes A umlaut. This is one of the most common irregular verb patterns in German. One more example, schlafen, to sleep. Du schläfst, you sleep. Schläft, he, she, it sleeps. The A becomes A umlaut. Notice how this pattern is completely consistent. If a verb has A in the stem and it's irregular, it almost always changes to A umlaut for do and s. Pattern 3. When the verb stem contains the vowel I. Here's some good news. I usually do not change. Look at these examples. Sitzen, to sit. To sitzt, sitzt. I stays I. Finden, to find. To findest, findet. I stays I. Trinken, to drink. To trinkst, trinkt. I stays I. These verbs are technically irregular. They're strong verbs, but the vowel doesn't change in the present tense, so they're easier to conjugate than pattern 1 and pattern 2 verbs. But wait, there's one exception. Wissen, to know, is the only common verb where I changes to ei. Du weißt, you know. Sie es weiß, he, she, it knows. This is a very unusual change. I changes to ei with an sz, beta symbol. Wissen is one of the most irregular verbs in German, so you just need to memorize this one.
Let's see all these patterns in action with a complete conjugation table. This shows 6 common irregular verbs side by side. Sprechen, to speak, pattern 1b, I to I. Ich spreche, du sprichst, spricht, wir sprechen, ihr sprecht, sie sprechen. Fahren, to drive, pattern 2, A to A umlaut. Ich fahre, du fährst, fährt, wir fahren, ihr fahrt, sie fahren. Lesen, to read, pattern 1a, I to IE. Ich lese, du liest, liest, wir lesen, ihr lest, sie lesen. Nehmen, to take, pattern 1b, I to I. Ich nehme, du nimmst, nimmt, wir nehmen, ihr nehmt, sie nehmen. Schlafen, to take, pattern 2, A to A umlaut. Ich schlafe, du schläfst, schläft, wir schlafen, ihr schlaft, sie schlafen. Helfen, to help, pattern 1b, I to I. Ich helfe, du hilfst, hilft, wir helfen, ihr helft, sie helfen. Notice the pattern. Only du and s change. All other forms, ich, wir, ihr, sie/sie, use the regular stem, just like regular verbs. Let's see these irregular verbs in real sentences. Ich spreche Deutsch. I speak German. The verb is sprechen, to speak. The subject is ich, so we use spreche, the regular form with no vowel change. Remember, ich never have a vowel change in irregular verbs. Sie fährt nach Berlin. She drives to Berlin. The verb is fahren, to drive. The subject is sie, so we use fährt. Pattern 2. A becomes A umlaut. Notice how smooth this sounds when you say it quickly. Sie fährt nach Berlin. Liest ein Buch. He reads a book. The verb is lesen, to read. The subject is so we use liest. Pattern 1a. E becomes ie. This is one of the most common irregular verbs you'll use in everyday German. Wir nehmen den Bus. We take the bus. The verb is nehmen, to take. The subject is wir, so we use nehmen. No vowel change. Remember, wir, ihr, and sie, they, never have vowel changes even in irregular verbs. Du schläfst lange. You sleep for a long time. The verb is schlafen, to sleep. The subject is du, so we use schläfst.
Pattern 2. A becomes A umlaut. This sentence describes someone who sleeps a lot. Hilft mir. He helps me. The verb is helfen, to help. The subject is so we use hilft. Pattern 1b. E becomes I. Notice mir is the data form of ich. He helps me, to me. Now, let's build your vocabulary with the most essential irregular verbs you'll need every day. Werden, to become or will. Gehen, to go. Kommen, to come. Sehen, to see. Geben, to give. Nehmen, to take. Essen, to eat. Sprechen, to speak. Fahren, to drive or travel. Laufen, to run or walk. Schlafen, to sleep. Helfen, to help. Treffen, to meet. Lesen, to read. Tragen, to carry or wear. Waschen, to wash. Vergessen, to forget. Halten, to hold or stop. Finden, to find. Denken, to think. Bringen, to bring. Bleiben, to stay or remain. Ziehen, to pull or move. Werfen, to throw. With these 24 irregular verbs, plus the patterns you learned, you can handle most German conversations.
Now, let's practice. I'll give you 5 sentences with blanks. Fill in the correct conjugated form of the irregular verb in parentheses. Pause the video and give it a try. Here are the answers. Let's check how you did. Let me summarize everything you learned about irregular verbs today. First, irregular verbs change the stem vowel only for do and zs. Second, 3 main vowel change patterns. Pattern 1, stem contains E. Type A, 1 consonant between 2 E's, E becomes IE. Type B, 2 consonants between 2 E's, E becomes I. Pattern 2, stem contains A becomes A umlaut. Pattern 3, stem contains I, usually stays I, no change. One exception, wissen, I to EI. Third, the endings are completely normal. Only the stem vowel changes, not the endings. The key is recognizing patterns. Once you know whether a verb follows pattern 1A, 1B, or pattern 2, you can conjugate it correctly every time. Great job! You now understand irregular verbs in German. This is a huge achievement because irregular verbs include the most used verbs in the German language. Now you can speak more naturally, describe actions accurately, and sound like a native speaker. Keep learning with Sikho German. Remember, irregular verbs seem challenging at first, but there are patterns. Focus on learning the 3 main vowel change patterns, and soon you'll automatically know how to conjugate any irregular verb you encounter. If this lesson helped you master irregular verbs, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future lessons. Also share it with your friends learning German and leave a comment with a sentence using an irregular verb you learned today. Thank you so much for learning with Sikho German today. You've mastered one of the most challenging aspects of German grammar. Keep practicing these irregular verbs every day. Use them in your own sentences, think about which pattern they follow, and soon they'll become second nature. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bis bald. Auf Wiedersehen.